In one of the spacious apartments on the Upper East Side, a tragedy unfolded that began with the most ordinary dream of happiness. Ashira Delaney stood at the panoramic window of the living room and looked at Manhattan, bathed in the evening lights. Behind her, in the kitchen, Quentin was preparing dinner, something exquisite, with seafood and white wine. She could hear him humming a jazz tune softly and smiled. A month ago, she had become Mrs. Olivier, and it still seemed like a wonderful dream from which she didn't want to wake up. They had met 6 months ago at a corporate event where Quentin had come as a financial consultant. Ashira hadn't even planned on meeting anyone at the time. After several failed relationships, she had almost resigned herself to the idea that she was destined to remain alone. But Quentin was different. He was attentive, witty, and polite, yet not intrusive. He didn't rush things, giving her time to get used to his presence in her life. And when he proposed, kneeling in a rooftop restaurant overlooking the Empire State Building, Ashira knew she had found what she had been looking for her whole life. Today marked exactly 1 month since their wedding. It was a modest but elegant ceremony in a small Brooklyn church, attended only by their closest friends and family: Ashira's mother, Yvette, her friend Zendaya, a few of Quentin's colleagues, and a couple of the bride's friends. Ashira didn't want a lavish celebration. It was enough for her to have the man who looked at her as if she were the center of his universe standing next to her. "Dinner's almost ready, honey," Quentin called from the kitchen. "Set the table." Ashira went into the kitchen, where 2 tall candles in silver candlesticks already adorned the countertop. Quentin, dressed in sweatpants and a shirt with rolled-up sleeves, was working his magic over a frying pan where shrimp were sizzling in garlic oil. He turned and smiled at her, that signature smile of his that made Ashira's heart skip a beat every time. "Tonight is a special night," he said, removing the pan from the stove. "Our 1-month anniversary. I want you to know that this is the best thing that has ever happened to me." Ashira walked over and hugged him around the waist. "I'm happy too, Quentin. Very happy." They had dinner by candlelight, with soft music playing from the speakers Quentin had turned on. They talked about everything and nothing: their plans for the weekend, Ashira's new project at work, the fact that they should visit her mother soon. Quentin told a joke about his colleague, and Ashira laughed, thinking about how lucky she was. After dinner, Quentin took a small velvet-covered box out of the cupboard. "For you," he said simply, handing it to Ashira. She opened the box and gasped. Inside was a gold necklace with a small diamond, elegant, expensive, incredibly beautiful. "Quentin, this is too much," she whispered. "You already give me gifts all the time." "Nothing is too much for my wife," he replied, standing up and fastening the necklace around her neck. "You deserve the very best, Ashira, and I want to give it to you." She turned to him, and they kissed, long and tenderly. At that moment, Ashira was absolutely certain that her life was finally on the right track. The next day was Saturday, and they decided to spend it in Central Park. The weather was warm and sunny, like summer, a rarity for early October. Quentin suggested renting bicycles, and Ashira happily agreed. They rode along the park paths, admiring the yellowing trees and the crowds of people who, like them, had decided to enjoy the last warm days. They stopped at the Bethesda fountain, bought ice cream from a street vendor, and sat down on a bench. Ashira tilted her head back, exposing her face to the sun, and Quentin took a few photos with his phone. "You look especially beautiful today," he said, looking at the pictures. "Although you're always beautiful." Ashira laughed. Flatterer. "No, I'm just telling the truth." They returned home in the late afternoon, tired but happy. Quentin suggested ordering pizza, and they spent the rest of the day on the couch watching a light comedy series and finishing the wine left over from dinner. Ashira thought that this was what life should be like: simple, calm, cozy, no drama, no scandals, no tears. All her past relationships had been filled with jealousy, misunderstanding, or simple incompatibility. With Quentin, everything was different. He was attentive to her desires, didn't pressure her, didn't demand the impossible. He was reliable, stable, and Ashera appreciated that most of all. On Tuesday evening, Ashera met Zendaya at a small cafe near her home. Her friend was already sitting at a table by the window, scrolling through something on her phone. When she saw Ashera, she jumped up and hugged her. "So, tell me, how's your married life?" Zendaya asked when they sat down and ordered coffee. "Are you tired of your husband yet, or are you still in the honeymoon phase?" Ashera smiled. "Everything's great, Zen. Honestly, I couldn't have imagined it could be this good. Quentin is just perfect, attentive, caring, generous." Zendaya nodded, and something flashed in her eyes that Ashera couldn't quite identify. Envy? Sadness? Or just fatigue? "I'm happy for you, friend," Zendaya said. "I really am. You deserve happiness after everything you've been through. That Jamal of yours wore you out back then, remember? Work, 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 and no attention for you." Ashera grimaced. She didn't like to think about Jamal. Yes, they had broken up 4 years ago, and she hadn't seen him since. He was a good man, but his job as a detective consumed all his time and energy. Ashera was tired of being second best and decided she deserved better. Now, looking at her life with Quentin, she knew she had made the right decision. "Quentin is completely different," she said. "He always makes time for me. Even when he has a lot of work, he still calls, texts, and asks how I'm doing. We have dinner together, go for walks, talk. It's so important, Zen." "Yes, of course," Zendaya nodded, stirring sugar into her coffee. "I want a husband like that. All the ones I meet are weird. Some are married, some are unemployed, some don't even know what they want." Ashera looked at her friend sympathetically. Zendaya had always been a little unlucky in her personal life. Beautiful, smart, with a good job, but for some reason, men didn't stay with her for long. "Don't worry, Zen. You'll find your person too. It just takes time." Zendaya smiled crookedly. "I hope so. I'm already 34, and the clock is ticking." They spent another hour talking, discussing work, mutual acquaintances, the latest gossip. When they parted, Zendaya hugged Ashera again and wished her happiness. Ashera walked home with a light heart, glad to have such a loyal friend. On Wednesday evening, as Ashera was heating up dinner, the phone rang. The name Mom lit up on the screen. "Hi, Mom," Ashera answered, holding the phone between her ear and shoulder while she took the container of food out of the microwave. "Ashera, dear, how are you? How is Quentin?" Yvette's voice was filled with maternal concern. "Everything's fine, Mom. We're happy." "Thank God," Yvette sighed. "I pray for you every day. You know, I'm so glad you finally found a decent man. Quentin is so well-mannered, so courteous. I knew right away that he was the one." Ashera smiled. Her mother had always worried about her, especially after her father died 15 years ago. Yvette raised her daughter alone, working as a nurse at the city hospital, and always wanted a better life for Ashera than she herself had had. "Mom, don't worry so much. I'm fine." "I'm not worried. I just want you to be happy. You deserve it, baby. After all your bad luck with men, I was starting to think you'd end up alone. But God heard my prayers." "Mom, please." Asher rolled her eyes, though her mother couldn't see her. "I wasn't that unhappy." "Oh, sure," Yvette said ironically. "Especially when you were crying in my kitchen after you broke up with that cop. What was his name? Jamal?" "Mom, that was a long time ago. I've forgotten." Okay. The main thing is that everything is different now. When are you coming to visit? I want to cook you dinner. Does Quentin like my meatloaf?" "Mom, I'll check with him and let you know. We'll probably be able to come this weekend." "Great. I'll be waiting. I love you, dear." "I love you too, Mom." Ashera hung up and went back to dinner. Quentin was supposed to be back in an hour. He had a meeting with a client that was running late. Ashera didn't mind. She understood that work was work. Besides, Quentin always warned her in advance if he was going to be late, and that was nice. Things were also going well at work. On Thursday morning, Richard Lockwood called Ashera into his office. She felt a little nervous. Usually such meetings meant either praise or a reprimand, but judging by the satisfied expression on her boss's face, it was clearly the former. "Ashera, have a seat," Richard said, pointing to the chair across from his desk. "I wanted to talk to you about your latest contracts." Ashera sat down, folding her hands in her lap. "Is something wrong, Mr. Lockwood?" "On the contrary, everything is more than fine," Richard smiled. "You've closed 3 major contracts in the last month. That's an excellent result, considering you've just returned from your honeymoon. I'm impressed." Ashera felt a warm sense of pride spread through her. "Thank you, Mr. Lockwood. I'm trying my best." "It shows. Keep up the good work, and I think we can discuss a promotion by the end of the year. You deserve it." Ashera left her boss's office feeling elated. Everything in her life was going perfectly. A loving husband, a happy mother, a loyal friend, success at work. It seemed that all the pieces of the puzzle had finally fallen into place, and only a bright future lay ahead of her. On Monday morning, Escher woke up feeling slightly unwell. Her head was spinning a little, and her body felt heavy. She chalked it up to fatigue. She had had a busy weekend and was probably just overtired. "Are you okay?" Quentin asked, buttoning his shirt in front of the mirror. "Yes, just a little tired," Ashera replied, pulling the blanket up higher. "I probably should have gone to bed earlier." "Why don't you stay home?" Quentin suggested. "Get some rest." "No, I have an important meeting with a client today. I can't miss it." Quentin nodded, walked over to the bed, and kissed her on the forehead. "Take care of yourself then. If you feel really bad, call me, and I'll come over." Ashera smiled at him and forced herself to get up. After taking a shower and drinking strong coffee, she felt a little better. By the time she got to the office, her discomfort had almost disappeared, and she decided she had just been worrying too much. Over the next few days, the discomfort persisted. On the contrary, Ashera felt like she was getting worse. On Tuesday morning, she woke up drenched in sweat, even though the apartment was cool. Her temperature rose to 38.2, and her body ached as if she had spent the whole day doing heavy physical labor. Quentin insisted that she stay home, but Ashera refused. She had an important presentation for a new client and couldn't miss it. She took some fever reducers, put on a little more makeup than usual to hide her pallor, and went to the office. The presentation went well. The client was satisfied, and Ashera even felt some relief. Maybe it's just a common cold, she thought. Autumn in New York always brought with it a wave of viral infections, and it was no surprise that she had caught something on the subway or on the street. But by midday, the weakness had become so severe that Escher had to sit down right in the office hallway, leaning her back against the wall. Her head was spinning, black spots were floating before her eyes, and her ears were ringing. She tried to get up, but her legs wouldn't obey her. "Ashera! Ashera, are you okay?" She heard the worried voice of her colleague, Monica. "Just a little dizzy," Ashera muttered, trying to smile. Monica sat down next to her and touched her forehead. "My God, you're burning up. You need to see a doctor. Right away." "No, I'm fine, But Ashera didn't have time to finish. Darkness enveloped her like a heavy blanket, and she lost consciousness. She woke up in an ambulance. A paramedic in a blue uniform was leaning over her, checking her pulse. "You'll be fine," the woman said in a soothing tone. "We're taking you to the clinic. How are you feeling?" "Weak," Ashera whispered. "What's wrong with me?" "You lost consciousness at work. Your temperature is 39.4. We'll figure it out, don't worry." In the clinic's reception room, she was immediately taken to the examination room. The doctor, a young woman with a tired face and a severe hairstyle, examined Ashera and asked her many questions about her symptoms, when it had started, and whether she had been ill before. Ashera answered as best she could, feeling her strength leaving her with every passing minute. "We'll take some blood tests," said the doctor. "We need to understand what's going on. Have you been in contact with anyone who is sick recently?" Have you traveled anywhere? No, nowhere, replied Ashera. Just my usual life. Work, home. Okay, wait here. We'll be back soon. The nurse took several vials of blood, and Ashera was left alone in the cold examination room, covered with a thin hospital sheet. She took out her phone and texted Quentin. At the hospital. I got sick at work. Don't worry, they're figuring it out. I'll text you when I get the results. Quentin replied almost immediately. My God, Ashera, I'll be right there. Don't bother, there's nothing you can do here anyway. Better wait at home. I'll be back soon. The wait was long. Ashera drifted in and out of sleep, waking up with chills. Finally, the door opened and the same doctor came in. There was a strange expression on her face. Not sympathy, not concern, but some kind of professional detachment that Ashera couldn't decipher. Mrs. Olivier, the doctor began, sitting down on a chair opposite the couch. Your test results are ready. I have something important to tell you. Ashera's heart skipped a beat. What's wrong? The doctor paused, choosing her words carefully. Your blood test came back positive for human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Ashera stared at her, not understanding. The doctor's words seemed to come from somewhere far away, through a thick layer of water. What? Was all she could manage to say. You have HIV, the doctor repeated more clearly. Judging by your symptoms and test results, the infection is recent, most likely contracted recently. What you are experiencing now is the acute stage of the infection, which usually occurs in the first few weeks after infection. Ashera felt the world around her begin to crumble. HIV. Her. She had HIV. That's impossible, she whispered. I couldn't have been infected. I'm married. I have one partner. The doctor looked at her sympathetically. Mrs. Olivier, I understand that this is a shock, but the virus is not transmitted through the air or through everyday contact. The main routes of transmission are sexual contact, blood, and from mother to child. If you have one sexual partner, then… Ashera didn't let her finish. No, this must be some kind of mistake. Check again. We'll do an additional test to confirm. It's standard procedure, the doctor said calmly. But the initial analysis is quite reliable. I recommend that your husband also get tested. If the infection entered your body through sexual contact, then he is most likely the source. Ashera covered her face with her hands. Quentin infected her. But how? How could he have HIV? I want to go home, she said through her tears. I need to go home. The doctor nodded. I'll write you a referral to an infectious disease specialist. You need to start testing and possibly treatment as soon as possible. Modern medications allow you to live a full life with HIV, but it's important not to delay. Here's my number. She handed Escher a business card. Call any time if you have questions. Escher took the card with trembling fingers. She wanted to scream, smash dishes, destroy something. But instead, she just got up, got dressed, and left the clinic, feeling completely devastated. The way home was like a nightmare. Ashera didn't remember how she got to her apartment. She walked as if in a dream, not noticing the people around her, not hearing the noise of the city. There was only one question in her head. How could Quentin do this to her? When she opened the door to her apartment, Quentin immediately rushed to her. Ashera, thank God you're home. What did the doctors say? What's wrong with you? He took her hands and looked intently into her face. Ashera pulled her hands away. Don't touch me. Quentin stepped back, puzzled. What happened? What did they tell you? Ashera slowly took off her jacket and hung it on a hanger. Then she turned to her husband and looked him straight in the eye. I have HIV. Silence hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Quentin turned pale. What? He gasped. This must be some kind of mistake. It can't be true. The doctor said the test is reliable, and that I need to have additional tests done. She also said that you need to get tested too, because if I have only one sexual partner, then you must be the source of the infection. Quentin shook his head, stepping back. No, that's impossible. I don't have HIV. I'm healthy. We got tested before we got married. Exactly. Ashera's voice broke into a scream. We got tested, but for some reason, now I have HIV. Where did I get it, Quentin? Where? I don't know. He raised his voice too. Maybe it wasn't me. Ashera froze. What are you saying? Quentin nervously ran his hand through his hair. Well, maybe you had someone else? Before me? Or even now? Ashera felt something inside her snap. She walked over to Quentin and slapped him across the face. How dare you? How dare you accuse me? I was faithful to you, always. I didn't have anyone else after we started dating. No one. Quentin held his cheek, looking at her with shock and hurt. Ashera, I didn't mean to. It's just so strange. Maybe the test is wrong. Maybe the lab mixed up the tubes. The doctor said they would do an additional test, but she was sure of the results. She also said that the infection was recent, that the infection happened recently, just when we started sleeping together. Quentin turned away, pressing his hands to his face. I don't know what to say. I swear to you, I don't have HIV. I would know. I would feel it. Then explain to me where I got HIV. Ashera's voice trembled. Explain. Quentin was silent. He stood in the middle of the living room with his head down, silent. Ashera looked at him and felt not only anger, but also fear rising inside her. Fear of a future that now seemed so uncertain and frightening. Go away, she said quietly. Get out of here. I need to be alone. Ashera, go away, she shouted. Now! Quentin stood there for a moment, then took his jacket and left the apartment, quietly closing the door behind him. Ashera collapsed onto the sofa and burst into tears. She cried for a long time until she had no more tears left, and then she just lay there, staring at the ceiling and feeling completely empty. Without remembering how, she picked up the phone and dialed Zendaya's number. Her friend answered after the third ring. Hi, Ash. How are you? Zen. Ashera's voice broke. Zen, I feel sick. What's wrong? Zendaya's voice was instantly alarmed. Are you crying? What happened? Please come over. I need someone to talk to. I can't do this anymore. I'm on my way. Zendaya didn't ask any unnecessary questions. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Hang in there, friend. Ashera threw the phone on the sofa and covered her face with her hands again. 20 minutes. She had to hold on for 20 minutes. Zendaya arrived even earlier than that. When Ashera opened the door, her friend immediately hugged her, tightly, and for a long time. Oh my God, Ash, what happened? You're so pale. Are you sick? They went into the living room. Ashera sat down on the sofa, pulling her knees up to her chest, and Zendaya sat down next to her, holding her hand. Tell me, what happened? Ashera took a deep breath. I have HIV. Zendaya froze, her eyes widening. What? I felt sick at work today. They took me to the hospital. They took some tests, and the doctor said I have HIV. Ashera spoke monotonously, as if telling a story that had not happened to her. She said the infection is recent, that I was infected recently, and that the source is most likely my sexual partner, that is Quentin. Zendaya shook her head. Wait, that's... Quentin? Did you talk to him about it? Yes. He denies everything, swears he's healthy, even hinted that maybe I was the one who cheated on him. Ashera smiled bitterly. Can you imagine? Zendaya frowned. What a jerk. Sorry, but it's true. To accuse you of something like that. I don't know what to do, Zen. My whole life has fallen apart in one day. I have HIV. My husband, whom I thought was perfect, either lied to me, cheated on me, or doesn't even know about his illness. I don't understand what's going on. Zendaya thought for a moment, staring out the window. Then she turned to Esha. Listen, what if we get his medical records, the real ones, from the hospital or clinic where he's being treated? Then we'll find out the truth. Esha looked at her. How are we going to do that? That's confidential information. They don't just give it out. Zendaya paused, then said cautiously, You had Jamal. He's a detective. He has connections. He can get those records. Ashira flinched at the sound of that name. Jamal? Zen, we haven't spoken in 4 years. I don't even know if he remembers me. Of course he remembers. He was head over heels in love with you. Zendaya leaned closer. Ash, think about it. You need the truth. You have a right to know who infected you and why. And Jamal is your only chance to get that information. Ashira hesitated. The thought of seeing Jamal again gave her mixed feelings. They hadn't broken up on bad terms, but they weren't friends either. They had simply drifted apart because their lives were going in different directions. She wasn't sure he would want to help her. I don't know, Zen. It feels so weird to ask him for help after so many years of silence. Ash, you have HIV, Zendaya said harshly. Your life has changed forever. You need to know the truth, for yourself, for your future. If Quentin really infected you and knew about it, that's a crime. He has to answer for it. And if he didn't know, then you two can figure it out together. But you need to know the truth. Ashira closed her eyes. Zendaya was right. She needed the truth, no matter how terrible it might be. Okay, she whispered. I'll call him. Zendaya hugged her. That's right. Everything will be fine, sweetheart. We'll figure it all out. When Zendaya left, promising to come back the next day, Ashira sat in the dark living room for a long time, holding her phone. Jamal's number was still in her contacts. She hadn't been able to bring herself to delete it after they broke up. Several times, she brought her finger to the screen to press call, but stopped herself at the last moment. What would she say to him? Hi, Jamal. Long time no see. By the way, I have HIV, and I need you to get my husband's medical records. It sounded absurd. It sounded desperate. But she was desperate. Escher took a deep breath and pressed the call button. The ringing went on forever. Maybe he wouldn't answer. Maybe he had changed his number. Maybe he just didn't want to talk to her. But on the 5th ring, someone picked up. Hello? Jamal's voice was just as she remembered it. Low, slightly hoarse, confident. Jamal, it's me, Ashira. Pause. A long, heavy pause. Ashira? His voice sounded surprised. Wow, I didn't expect that. How are you? Her voice trembled. I need your help. Can we meet? Another pause. Then, of course. When? Tomorrow? Please. It's important. Okay. Let's say 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. Do you know the Blues Cafe on the Brooklyn Bridge? I do. See you there then. Thanks, Jamal. You're welcome, Ash. See you tomorrow. Ashira hung up and felt a little lighter. Maybe Zendaya was right. Maybe Jamal could really help her. Maybe tomorrow she would finally learn the truth about her husband. The Blues Cafe was a small place with dim lighting and worn leather furniture. Ashira arrived 15 minutes early and sat down at a table in the far corner, where she could see the entrance. Her hands were shaking, so she hid them under the table, clenching her fingers into fists. She had hardly slept or eaten in the last 24 hours, drinking only water and endlessly replaying the conversation with the doctor, her argument with Quentin, and all the events of the last few days. Quentin came home late at night when Ashira was already lying in the bedroom, pretending to be asleep. He didn't wake her up, just lay down next to her, and they spent the night like two strangers, separated by an invisible wall of silence. In the morning, he tried to talk to her, but Ashira left for work earlier than usual without saying a word. The cafe door opened, letting in a gust of cold air, and Jamal walked in. Ashira recognized him immediately, even though he had changed. His shoulders were broader, his temples were graying, and his eyes showed the weariness that comes with years of work as a detective. He looked around, noticed her, and headed for the table. Ashira, he said, sitting down opposite her. Hello. Hello, Jamal. Thank you for agreeing to meet me. He shrugged. You said it was important. How could I refuse? The waitress approached, and they ordered coffee. When she left, Jamal looked at Ashira intently, studying her. "You don't look well. What's wrong?" Ashira took a deep breath. There was no point in beating around the bush. "I have HIV." Jamal froze, his face turning to stone. "Oh my God. Ash, I'm so sorry." "That's not all," she continued, feeling the words pour out of her. "The doctor said the infection is recent, that I was infected recently. I've only had one partner recently, my husband, Quentin. We got married 2 months ago. But when I asked him about it, he denied everything. He swears he's healthy, that he doesn't have HIV. He even hinted that I might have cheated on him." Jamal frowned. "And you want me to get his real medical records?" he finally said. "Yes. I need to know the truth. I have a right to know who infected me and why he hid it. Please, Jamal. I understand that it's illegal, that you're risking your career, but I have no one else to turn to." Jamal rubbed his face with his hands. "This is a really serious violation. If I get caught, I could lose my badge. And not just my badge. I know. And if you say no, I'll understand. But I'm asking you." He looked at her for a long time, and Ashira saw in his eyes the old feeling that had once connected them. He still loved her. Or at least he still cared enough about her to not be indifferent to her pain. "Okay," Jamal said quietly. "I'll help. Give me his full name, date of birth, social security number if you know it, and anything else that might help find him in the database." Ashira reached into her bag and pulled out a piece of paper on which she had written down all the information about Quentin. "Here, this is everything I know." Jamal took the piece of paper, folded it, and put it in his jacket pocket. "It'll take a few days. I have a contact in the health department. He owes me a favor. I'll call you when it's ready." "Thank you," Ashira whispered, and tears welled up in her eyes again. "Thank you, Jamal." He reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "Hang in there, Ash. Everything will be fine." But they both knew that was a lie. Nothing would ever be fine again. The next 3 days were hell for Ashira. She went to work, but couldn't concentrate. She sat in front of her computer, staring at the screen, unable to see the numbers and graphs. Richard Lockwood came by several times to ask if she was okay, and Ashira nodded, forcing a smile. But inside, she was slowly falling apart. At home, she avoided Quentin. He tried to talk to her, asked when she would go for a follow-up examination, suggested they go to the doctor together. Ashira answered in monosyllables, went to the bedroom and locked herself in, pretending to read or work. Quentin did not insist. Perhaps he sensed that something between them had been irreparably broken. At night, Ashira lay awake, listening to his breathing beside her, thinking about how happy she had been just a month ago. So naive, so blind. She had believed in a fairy tale, but got a nightmare instead. Zendaya called every day, asking if there was any news from Jamal. Ashira replied that there wasn't, and her friend reassured her, saying that she just had to wait, that everything would soon become clear. On the 4th day, in the afternoon, when Ashira was sitting in the office and staring blankly out the window, the phone rang. "Jamal." "Hello?" she answered, feeling her heart sink. "Ash, I have what you asked for. Can we meet tonight? Same cafe, 7 o'clock? "Yes, I'll be there." She hung up with trembling hands. So, it was time to find out the truth. When Asher entered the Blues, Jamal was already sitting at the same table as last time. A brown folder lay in front of him. Asher approached and sat down opposite him, unable to take her eyes off the folder. "Hi," Jamal said. "Are you ready?" "I don't know. Probably not. But I need to know." He nodded and slid the folder toward her. "I got all his medical records from the last 10 years. Ash, there's something you need to know. And it's not just HIV." Ashira opened the folder. The first thing she saw were lab tests with the clinic's stamp. Her eyes immediately fell on the line. HIV status, positive. The test date was 3 years ago. 3 years. He knew. He knew all this time. "My God," Escher whispered. That's not all, Jamal said quietly. Keep turning the pages. Ashira turned a few pages and came across documents from a gender medicine clinic. She scanned the lines. Patient undergoing hormone therapy, sex reassignment surgery, born female, gender dysphoria. The world around her spun. Escher reread the lines over and over, but they didn't become any less real. Quentin was born a woman. Quentin was a transgender man, and he never told her. I don't understand, she breathed. This is some kind of mistake. This can't be true. Ash, I checked 3 times. These are his records. Quentin Olivier, the date of birth matches. The social security number is the same. It's him. Ashira closed the folder, unable to look at the documents any longer. He lied to me. He lied to me about everything. Who is he? Who is this person I'm living with? Jamal reached out and took her wrist. Ash, listen to me. What he did, hiding his HIV status from you and infecting you, is a crime. I can help you file a report against him. He has to answer for this. Ashira shook her head. I need to go home. I need to talk to him. Ash, are you sure? Maybe you shouldn't right now. I need to hear it from him. I need to look him in the eye and hear the truth. Jamal reluctantly let go of her hand. Okay, but be careful. And if anything happens, call me. Anytime. Ashira took the folder, stood up, and left the cafe. It was cold outside, and it was starting to rain. She caught a taxi and went home, clutching the folder on her lap so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Quentin was home. He was sitting on the sofa in the living room, watching some show on TV. When Ashira came in, he turned and smiled at her. Hi, honey. How was your day? Ashira didn't answer. She walked into the living room, threw the folder on the coffee table in front of him, and crossed her arms over her chest. Open it. Quentin frowned as he looked at the folder. What is it? Open it and see. He slowly leaned forward, picked up the folder, and opened it. Ashira saw his face change, first to confusion, then to horror, then to despair. He leafed through the documents, and his hands began to shake. Ashira, where did you get this? It doesn't matter where. What matters is what's written there. You've had HIV for 3 years. You knew about it and hid it from me. You infected me, on purpose. No! Quentin jumped up from the sofa. No, I didn't mean to. I swear I didn't mean to infect you. But you did, Ashira shouted. You lied to me. I was afraid. Quentin's voice broke. I was afraid I'd lose you if I told you the truth. You were the only good thing in my life, Ashira. The only thing. And that's not all, is it? Ashira moved closer, her voice turning icy. You were born a woman. You're a transgender man. And you hid that from me, too. Quentin froze. His face turned pale. How did you... Where did you... It's all in these documents. Asher pointed to the folder. Your entire past, all your secrets. Who are you, Quentin? Or what was your name before? Quentin sank down onto the sofa, covering his face with his hands. I'm Quentin. I've always been Quentin. It's just that my body at birth didn't match who I really am. And you thought you had the right not to tell me about it? Ashira felt rage boiling up inside her. I'm your wife. I had a right to know. I was afraid, Quentin cried, raising his head. Tears streamed down his cheeks. I was afraid you would reject me like everyone else did. I just wanted to be a man to you, just a loving husband. But you weren't. You were a liar. Ashira felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she held them back. You ruined my life, Quentin. You infected me with a deadly disease. You lied to me about everything. Quentin stood up and took a step toward her, reaching out his hands. Ashira, please listen to me. I love you. I've always loved you. Yes, I was wrong to hide the truth from you, but I did it out of love. I didn't want to lose you. Out of love? Ashira took a step back. You call that love? You destroyed my future. You poisoned my blood. What kind of love is that? I'm sorry, Quentin sobbed, continuing to approach her. Please forgive me. We can fix this. We can get through this together. I'll start treatment, and so will you. We'll get through this. Together. Ashira backed into the kitchen. Her back hit the countertop. Quentin followed, his face contorted with despair. Don't come near me, she hissed. Ashira, I love you. Don't you dare say you love me. You don't even know what love is. Quentin was already very close. Ashira felt something break inside her. All the pain of the last few days, all the rage, all the fear. It all mixed into one fiery ball that tore her apart from the inside. Her hand found the handle of a knife on the tabletop. A large, sharp knife they used to cut bread for breakfast. Don't come near me, she repeated, but Quentin didn't hear her. He reached out to her, trying to hug her, trying to calm her down. Ashira, please. And something inside her snapped. Ashira grabbed the knife and plunged it into Quentin's stomach with force. He gasped, his eyes widening in shock. She pulled the knife out and stabbed him again, and again, and again, and again. 5 times. She stabbed him 5 times. Quentin collapsed to the floor, hoarse sounds escaping his mouth. Blood spread across the white tiles, dark and thick. Ashira stood over him, still clutching the bloody knife. She looked at his body, at the blood, at her hands, and felt nothing. Emptiness. Absolute emptiness. Quentin stopped moving. His eyes remained open, staring at the ceiling. Ashira slowly sank to the floor beside him. The knife fell from her hand with a dull thud. She sat in a pool of someone else's blood and stared into nothingness. Her life was over, just as his was over, and she didn't care.